Hollywood is full of influential women. You have the moguls building production empires, the auteurs redefining the lens, and the once-in-a-generation stars who can still command a $20 million paycheck. And then there's Margot Robbie. Margot isn't just on the list. In 2026, she is the list. She's the woman who produced Barbie, a $1.4 billion cultural reset that owned the entire world in 2023. She's a two-time Oscar nominee who runs Lucky Chap, a production powerhouse that bankrolls the weirdest, edgiest, most disturbing movies in the industry. She doesn't just wait for a green light anymore. She is the green light. She can open a movie on her name alone. But here's the problem. Despite the billions, despite the career-defining roles, Margot Robbie still doesn't have an Oscar, and her latest attempt to get one just became the most controversial movie of the year. Few days ago, Wuthering hit theaters. It was supposed to be her prestige moment, a gothic masterpiece directed by Fennell. Instead, the internet is at war. At 35, Margot is playing a teenager. Her Heathcliff, Jacob Elordi, a 6'5" white Australian playing a character the book describes as dark-skinned and Romani. Film Twitter's calling it bodice-ripping fanfiction. Critics are screaming whitewashing. And then there's the skin room, a bedroom where the wallpaper is literally made of Margot's own sweating pores. But here's the twist. The movie is a massive hit. It pulled in $82 million over Valentine's weekend because in 2026, the Margot plus Jacob formula is more powerful than source material accuracy. But before we get into the breakdown, I have to know, do you think Margot Robbie is a good actor or just coasting off her looks? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I'm gonna be down there all day reading the chaos. So how did the girl who used to make sandwiches at a Subway in Melbourne become the woman who owns the literal walls of her own movie sets? Is she a victim of a Hollywood system that refuses to give her an Oscar, or has she become so powerful, so focused on commercial success that she's accidentally become the villain of the story? Today, we're breaking down the Margot Robbie Paradox, from her breakout to her Oscar snubs to her producer empire to the Wuthering Heights controversy. Because this isn't just about whether she's a good actress, this is about how Margot Robbie bought Hollywood, and whether she's about to break it. Or at least, that's what she wants you to believe. Let's go back to 2013, The Wolf of Wall Street. This is where the world met Margot Robbie. She played Naomi LaPaglia, the wife of Jordan Belfort, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and the role was complicated. On paper, the role was a cliché, the beautiful trophy wife, the seductive blonde whose main job was to look stunning and scream at Leonardo DiCaprio. But Margot didn't play a cliché, she played a shark. In a movie fueled by Leo's manic energy, Margot held her own. When she threatens to leave him, she's not the victim, she's the one holding the power. She famously auditioned for the role by actually slapping Leonardo DiCaprio across the face. Fuck you! Unscripted. She wasn't just looking for a breakout, she was taking it. Critics noticed, audiences noticed, and Hollywood said, "We found our next bombshell." And that became the problem. For the next 3 years, Margot was trapped in the pretty girl cycle. Focus, Suicide Squad, The Legend of Tarzan. In every poster, she was the prize for the male lead to win. The industry's obsession with her looks reached the peak when she literally won a Golden Schmoes Award for Best TNA of the Year. Think about that. One of the most talented women of her generation was being ranked like a piece of meat. And as she hit 25, she realized the clock was ticking. If she didn't find a way to own the camera was going to use her until she wasn't new anymore. And people started asking the question, is Margot Robbie actually talented, or is she just really, really pretty? It took years for her to get a role that would answer that question. So she didn't just look for a better script, she started her own company to write them. In 2017, that gamble paid off with I, Tonya. Margot didn't just star in this movie, she and her company, Lucky Chap, willed it into existence. This was the role that proved Margot Robbie could do the one thing a bombshell is never supposed to do: disappear. She played Tonya Harding, the disgraced figure skater whose ex-husband orchestrated an attack on her rival, Nancy Kerrigan. To become Tonya Harding, Margot didn't just put on a messy wig. She spent months on the ice, training until she actually herniated a disc in her neck. She later admitted she didn't realize how bad the injury was until her arm started going numb on set.
Did you get hurt?
Yeah, I mean, bumps and bruises for sure, and like the bloodiest blisters you've ever seen, but then I herniated a disc in my neck. But
Wow.
other than that, it was all good.
And then you had to keep skating after you herniated a disc?
Well, yeah, because I'm a producer on the film.
Right.
It was like,
But because she was the producer, she couldn't just call out sick. She had to suck it up and keep skating. Fun fact for the trivia nerds, Margot initially thought the script was fictional. She had no idea who Tonya Harding was. She approached it as a character study of a tragic, scrappy antihero, not a celebrity biopic. There's that one scene. Tonya is being interviewed and she tells the audience, "There's no such thing as truth. I mean, it's bullshit." Margot delivers that line with such a bone-deep bitterness that you completely forget you're watching a Gold Coast girl who was once a sandwich artist. You're watching a woman who has been chewed up by the American dream. The Academy couldn't ignore it. She got her first Best Actress nomination, and then she lost to Frances McDormand for 3 Billboards.
And the Oscar goes to Frances McDormand, 3 Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Looking back from 2026, many call this one of the most notorious misses in Oscar history. It was the moment Margot Robbie officially became a serious actor, but it was also the start of a pattern that would haunt her for the next decade. Still, I, Tonya proved something crucial. Margot wasn't just a pretty face. She could carry a movie. She could transform her body and run a production. She could act. She had the range. But Hollywood still didn't seem to want to give her the trophy. After I, Tonya, you'd think Margot would be the top choice for every prestigious drama in town. Directors should have been beating down her door. Instead, she went back to the clown makeup. Suicide Squad in 2016 made Margot an icon before she was even a star. She was the best part of a movie that critics absolutely hated. But the audience, they were obsessed. Margot as Harley Quinn became a Halloween costume, a meme, and a billion-dollar brand. She was Brat before Brat was even a thing. But here's the problem with playing Harley Quinn. It's not a serious role. It's fun, it's campy, it's the kind of performance that gets you magazine covers and action figures, but not awards. Even when she took the reins and produced Birds of Prey, making her one of the first women to actually own her superhero IP, the industry still treated it like a fun little side project. She fully committed to the chaos of Harley, but still, no Oscar buzz, no critical recognition beyond, she's fun to watch. Because Hollywood has a bias. Superhero performances don't get taken seriously. No matter how good you are, no matter how much you commit, if you're wearing a costume and fighting CGI monsters, the Academy doesn't care. So Margot was stuck, beloved by audiences, ignored by the people who hand out trophies. So by 2021, Margot was stuck in the ultimate paradox. She was the most recognizable face on the planet, beloved by millions, but she was being ignored by the people who hand out the trophies. She realized that if she wanted to be taken seriously, she couldn't just wait for a seat at the table. She had to build the table. She had to find the project so big, so pink, and so undeniably Margot that Hollywood couldn't look away even if they tried. Here's where Margot Robbie's story gets interesting, because she didn't just keep acting and hoping Hollywood would take her seriously. She started producing. And not just producing, building an empire. In 2014, she co-founded Lucky Chap Entertainment with her husband Tom Ackerley and friends Josie McNamara and Sophia Kerr. And by 2023, Lucky Chap became one of the most successful production companies in Hollywood. They produced I, Tonya. They produced Promising Young Woman, which won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. They produced Dollface, Maid, and the viral sensation Saltburn, and countless other projects centered on women's stories. And then came Barbie. Margot didn't just star in Barbie, she produced it. She fought for Greta Gerwig to direct it. She convinced Warner Bros. To give a massive budget to a movie about a doll. And she made it into a cultural phenomenon. Barbie made $1.4 billion. It dominated the summer of 2023. It sparked conversations about feminism, identity, and nostalgia. And Margot was the face of it all. But here's the kicker. Despite all of that, Margot didn't get an Oscar nomination for Barbie. Neither did Greta Gerwig for Best Director. Ryan Gosling got nominated for Best Supporting Actor. The movie got a Best Picture nomination. But Margot and Greta? Snubbed. The internet went nuclear. It felt like proof that no matter how much money Margot made or how many conversations about feminism she sparked, Hollywood still saw her as stereotypical Barbie, just a pretty blonde in a well-marketed box. But looking back from 2026, there's a darker question we have to ask. Was it a snub or was it a realization? Maybe the Academy didn't nominate her because the performance wasn't Oscar-worthy. Maybe Barbie, for all its success, was more about the concept than the acting. Maybe Margot was just being Margot. And that's the question that haunts her career. When is she acting and when is she just being a movie star? Before we get to Wuthering Heights, we need to talk about Margot's other recent work, because the pattern is fascinating. In 2019, she played Kayla Pospisil in Bombshell, a film about the Fox News sexual harassment scandal. It was the ultimate actor's role, and once again, Margot was great. She played a young producer who gets harassed by Roger Ailes, and the scene where she's assaulted in Roger Ailes' office is devastating. It's quiet, it's uncomfortable, and it's arguably the best acting of her career. The Academy noticed, giving her a second nomination, this time for Best Supporting Actress. And once again, she lost. This time to Laura Dern in Marriage Story.
And the Oscar goes to Laura Dern, Marriage Story.
Another great performance from Margot, another trophy for someone else's shelf. But at this point, the pattern was undeniable. Margot keeps getting nominated. Margot keeps losing. Then, just a few months ago in September 2025, a big, bold, beautiful journey was released. Directed by Kogonada, it's a quieter, more introspective film. Margot plays a woman grappling with grief and identity. Critics praise her restraint, her subtlety, her willingness to be unglamorous. But the movie didn't make waves. It came and went. It was a certified misfire at the box office, opening to just $3.2 million. Critics liked her, but the public was bored. It felt like a message from the universe. If you're quiet, we'll ignore you. If you're loud, we'll objectify you. And that brings us to right now, February 2026, the Valentine's Day release of Wuthering Heights. Margot is done being subtle. She's done playing by the rules. She's decided that if she can't win an Oscar by being good, she'll win it by being impossible to ignore. Wuthering Heights dropped Valentine's Day 2026. Directed by Emerald Fennell, it stars Margot Robbie as Catherine Earnshaw and Jacob Elordi as Heathcliff. And the internet exploded. Because here's the problem. In Emily Bronte's novel, Catherine is a teenager when the story begins. Margot Robbie is 35. And while Hollywood has a long history of casting older actors as teenagers, people are tired of it, especially when there are younger actresses who could have played the role. But the bigger issue? Heathcliff. The backlash was immediate. Film Twitter called it whitewashing. Critics said the casting erases the racial subtext of the story. People pointed out that this isn't just about aesthetics, it's about accuracy, about respecting the source material. And Margot, as the producer, was at the center of it all. Now the movie's out, the reviews are in, and they're mixed. Some critics called it visually stunning. Others call it emotionally hollow and overcooked. They're even making fun of the skin room, the bedroom where Margot literally printed her own veins onto the wallpaper. Some praise Margot's performance, saying she brings a fiery intensity to Catherine. Others said she's too polished, too glamorous, too old to capture the wild, untamed spirit of the character. One review called it bodice-ripping fanfiction masquerading as literary adaptation. But here's the thing. Despite the backlash, despite the mixed reviews, the movie is making money. A lot of money. The movie just pulled in $82 million globally over its opening weekend. It's the biggest hit of the year so far. Why? Because people want to see Margot and Jacob on screen together. They're beautiful. They have chemistry. And for general audiences who never read the book, none of the controversy matters. So the question becomes, is Margot smart for making this choice, or is she complicit in erasing important stories for the sake of profit? Because here's the thing, Margot has the power to make any movie she wants. She could have fought for a Romani actor to play Heathcliff. She could have passed on the role herself and let a younger actress take it. But she didn't. And that's the Margot Robbie problem in a nutshell. She has become so powerful that she can now afford to ignore the very critics she's been trying to impress for a decade. So, is Margot Robbie too powerful for her own good? Here's the thing. In 2026, movie stars are a dying breed, and IP is king. But Margot Robbie is the IP. She doesn't need Marvel, she doesn't need DC, she is the draw. People show up to see her, not the franchise. That is incredibly rare. Tom Cruise can do it, maybe Denzel, but for actors under 40, Margot is the only one who can open a movie on her name alone. But that power comes with a tax. When you become the franchise, you often stop taking risks. You start making choices based on what will sell, not what will challenge the soul. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Margot is so focused on being commercially successful, on producing billion-dollar movies, that she stopped pushing herself as an actress. She's playing it safe. And in doing so, she's reinforcing the idea that she's just a pretty face who happens to be smart about business. The Oscars keep snubbing her, not because she's not talented, but because she's not challenging herself anymore. She stopped taking the roles that demand their respect. She's trading her prestige for power. And maybe that's fine. Maybe Margot doesn't need an Oscar. Maybe she's more interested in being a mogul than being a respected actress. But if that's the case, we need to stop asking whether Hollywood is taking her seriously. That's the Margot Robbie paradox. She has the power to change Hollywood, but instead, she's just playing the game better than everyone else. She's a savvy CEO who figured out that in 2026, pretty plus profitable is the only armor that actually protects you. But I want to know what you think. Is Margot Robbie doing enough with her power? Or is the Wuthering Heights controversy proof that she's playing it too safe and too white for the modern age? Drop your thoughts below. I'll be in the comment arguing about the skin room all day. And if you want more deep dives on the people who own your attention, make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you in the next one.